I'm Dr. SCL. I'm a dad, a chiropractor, and the translator you didn't know you needed in this, the first year of parenting. This is Decoded, the first year, the podcast that turns baby brain confusion, mum burnout, and milestone panic into clarity you can actually use. Let's make sense of the chaos by decoding it together. Modern parents are under enormous pressure. And yes, it is pressure that creates diamonds. But developmentally, parents feel pressure to stimulate more, do more, optimize more, intervene earlier, and achieve milestones faster. Because as we know, when it comes to development, faster equals better, right? Of course not. And honestly, many babies and children are feeling that pressure too. But little nervous systems do not develop best under pressure. They develop best under safety. So today I want to talk about why development often slows down when nervous systems stop feeling safe enough to explore naturally. But before I do, I again want to state that I am not intending to become a parenting podcast. As a result, the intent of this conversation is not to look at development through the parental lens. Rather, it's going to focus on looking at development, when under pressure, through a nervous system lens of the child. So somewhere along the way, development became a performance, constantly being measured against averages which are constantly being moved and changed. As a side note, this is a podcast topic all on its own about how developmental milestones and standards are universally being lowered due to less children meeting them. And this is instead of asking why children would not be meeting milestones. In case you haven't noticed or are new around here, I am the guy who has made asking why into an art form. If one is not willing to ask why, one will never get a complete answer. However, back to the moving averages. As a result, we find parents feel responsible to be constantly trying to accelerate their baby's development. As a result, there are more programs, flashcards, stimulation, activities, intervention, and fundamentally concerns and worries. And all of this results in more Googling, which in turn creates more pressure. But development is not built through urgency. And ironically, excessive pressure often creates more nervous system stress, and stress will switch off organization. Now, the nervous system learns through exploration of the environment, curiosity, movement, play, adaptation, and most importantly, repetition. But when stress increases, the nervous system shifts towards protection. And a protected nervous system will always become more rigid, less adaptable, more dysregulated, and as a result, less exploratory. Yes, this list clearly is intended to apply to children. However, and I can say this as a parent, it clearly applies to us as well. Because pressure narrows capacity, and we know safety will expand it. I often see families unintentionally caught in cycles of over-monitoring, over-analyzing, and over-measuring development. Every movement is analysed, every milestone compared, every delay catastrophized. And the child often becomes inadvertently increasingly dysregulated underneath all of that pressure. And when I say dysregulated, this is not exclusively seen in developmental milestones and achievements. It can all too often present in sleeping difficulties, feeding challenges, and even the classic irritable reflux colicky kid. Remember, the nervous system runs the entire body. Therefore, dysregulation affects the whole nervous system. But then something fascinating happens when the internal and external pressure reduces and the nervous system can function without the burden of Google-inspired comparison. both the child and parents will soften. Regulation begins to dominate. The child begins to explore more, moving more freely, sleeping better, feeding easily. And parents, we are able to get off Google and out of the comparison cycle. Because nervous systems organize best when they feel safe enough to adapt naturally. If parenting constantly and currently is feeling like a performance, please know this. It's not a race. Faster is rarely, if at all, ever better. Your child doesn't need to become the earliest, fastest, bestest at everything in order to become well organized from a neurological angle. Sometimes the greatest thing we as parents can offer a developing nervous system is less pressure and interference. Remember, milestones on charts don't tell the full story. When a nervous system is given more trust, more quiet observation, and more space and freedom to develop naturally, wondrous things occur. Until next time, please trust your instincts, watch the patterns, and remember, strong foundations are usually built quietly. Dr. SCL, out. Thanks for listening to Decoded, the first year, where we translate the mess of early parenting into something that actually makes sense. Be sure to share this episode with a friend, a partner, or a mum that you know who is quietly struggling through the noise and secretly Googling every milestone. If you want to hear more decoding, follow @Mount Hawthorne Chiropractic on the socials. Let's keep decoding the chaos. No mansplaining, no pressure, no judgment, just clarity when you need it most. Please note, this podcast isn't medical advice. It's just smart strategies from a Gonstead chiropractor, a dad, and someone who's been in the room with hundreds of mums trying to make sense of their baby's development, their own postpartum recovery, and the constant noise that comes with modern parenting. Always chat with your health team for specific care.